What's up, guys? Matt here, coming at you with a quick look and comparison of these two trucks right here. So we have the TRX4M High Trail Edition and the Way Cool McCue K5 Blazer Fcx24 from Fair RC. These two come in around the same price range. This one was like $190 basically after tax and everything from the hobby shop. This one, the way it sits, comes in at the $200. Now it does come with this on the back normally, as well as this tire rack, which I removed to help performance because I wanted it as close to this to compare, you know. So out of the box, you would have these two things with this as well. You do get some upgraded aluminum oil-filled shocks, these high clearance links, your aluminum steering link, and servo horn for the $200 range. Okay, so you're getting quite a few upgrades there, but does it help it compete with this? All right, so a couple things. Really, I love what Traxxas did by stretching the wheelbase on this. It makes the body look so much better. They definitely should have done that with this. You know, when this came out, like, absolutely loved it, and I still do, but when you look at it next to this, it looks kind of terrible in my opinion. It's so scrunched. Once you see these two together, you're just like, whoa, what is wrong with that? So, and I'm not trying to hate on this truck. I absolutely love it. And the electronics and everything in this is way better, in my opinion, than what we get with this one. So that's why we're going to kind of battle these two. I'm going to do just like a turning radius test, and then I'm just going to go crawl on my course, let you guys see what they will do as they sit, because, you know, this at the $200 price range, these wheels and tires are upgraded. These have the brass ring inside of them. So this has weight added to it. Can this keep up just as it sits? And so I'm very curious to see how these two compare the way they come at the $200 range, right? I mean, obviously this has a few upgrades to it, but it comes in at basically the same price as this. So in my opinion, it's fair to compare these two. This is technically a stock truck, the way they're offering it, versus this 100% stock. So before we get started driving and comparing these things, let's take a look at what we get underneath here. In my opinion, the FCX electronics and gearing just works better than the Traxxas out of the box. Out of the box, the Traxxas seems to kind of just lunge over obstacles at times because it's geared a little bit high. So immediately you're going to have to do something with that gearing or just deal with it feeling a little odd when you're crawling. The FCX has a very good slow crawl modulation, and then we have the high speed gear that we can switch into for trailing along or just helping us get over obstacles. At this price point, the Petrozzi oil-filled shocks on here are very good. I would prefer those over the Traxxas stock shocks here for sure. I haven't had these things leak on me. They're very smooth and work very well. The other thing with the electronics to me is I'm not a fan of all of this proprietary stuff that Traxxas does. They always have to make everything complicated. You got to have their charger, you got to have their battery. It's very annoying dealing with all of this. Whereas this, we can pretty much take an SCX battery and slap in here or do whatever we want. So again, I give the edge there. Servos, kind of a wash. You know, this servo's, in my opinion, maybe a little bit better than this Traxxas one, but neither is great. So at some point, you're probably going to upgrade that. I'm not a huge fan of how this servo stands up because it limits your flex if you go trying to get any more performance out of this. But the way it sits stock, I think will be okay. But overall, the electronics are just not great. For one, we're still getting this TQ transmitter that is way outdated. You know, when this came out, it was pretty cool, but I've been seeing this thing for the last 12, 15 years, I guess now, and I'm pretty sick of it. There is zero adjustments on here. It's very annoying to go into the settings and try to figure out what you're doing by the blinks of the light, and you have a steering trim here, but that's it. You can't really one-hand drive this very well. I know there's you know, people print stuff. I could print one, but honestly, I just always ditch these things, so I don't even bother. With the FCX, I really like these small transmitters. This one I'm not a fan of. They've kind of went a cheap route, in my opinion, and did away with the original that had the dip switches. And now we get this one that feels really cheap. I mean, even the wheel like almost sticks a bit here, whereas the old one, it didn't have a foam wheel on it, but it didn't feel gunky like that. So this is not a great transmitter either, but I do still prefer it over that. You know, we at least can one-hand drive it. We have a third channel switch here for our shift servo, and it's not too hard to navigate. You do have a steering dual rate and throttle trim, steering trim, all of that right here. So I give the slight edge over the TQ, mostly because of the compact size. And then we do have a third channel, which works our shift servo. So you can really see the difference in the wheelbase here. That's gonna make a huge difference going uphill. And so that's where I'm curious if this stock being that much longer is going to be better than this being shorter but having all of the brass weight added to it, because this thing is pretty chunky now with the brass in the wheels. So I'm curious to see. So let's get this thing out and start testing it, and we can talk more about it as we go. So let's see what kind of side hill we can get here out of both of these. "41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 49, right around the 49 mark there, looks like, for side hill with the FCX. Trying to be smooth as I can with these things is the hard part. Already starting to tip at 42. Wow, so that weight down low really makes a big difference on the side hill. Let's see what we can get. Straight incline. I don't know if it's gonna hold. I'm gonna have to give it a little throttle. "35, 40, 45, 50, 54, 55." About 55 there. It looks like it's getting ready to tip. Let's see. 60. I'm gonna give it 60 because it kind of slid down there around 55. When I put it back on there, it clearly made it to the 60. All right, Traxxas battery installed, ready to run. Looks like it's maybe gonna hold itself on its own. "55, 56 or 7 probably, somewhere in there. So clear winner on both of these tests is the FCX. One note here, I do prefer the body clip system of the Traxxas. It's just a lot easier to unclip versus these prongs on these. I don't struggle with these a lot, but a lot of people do. And the Traxxas is a little bit easier. Over time, those do wear a little bit and sometimes want to pop loose, but these do too. So out of the box, I probably prefer the Traxxas just because it's a little easier. Okay, so for this test, I've did this a lot if you watch the channel, but I'm going to start with the back bumper against that piece of cardboard. And then we're just going to turn to the left here and we'll mark the outer wheels here on this side with this stick. I'm starting with the Traxxas because I feel like it's got a much tighter turning radius, but we're going to find out. This is a big deal on an indoor course. You know, both of these are a little large for what you would technically call 24th scale. And with this having the extended wheelbase, it's going to make a big difference as well. All right, so you can see I marked the outer wheel of the Traxxas there. We're gonna do the same with the FCX here. Now, there are mods we can do to get a little more steering out of these by flipping a screw around on the axle. You can go in, turn the dual rate up on both of these. There's things you can do to get more steering, but this is just straight out of the box how they act. I mean, without changing anything. So we got a whole truck width basically difference in the turning radius between the two. Even though the Traxxas has the much longer wheelbase, we're getting a better turning angle out of it. So here I wanted to do a little wheel speed test. I have the Fcx24 in low gear, Traxxas in the only gear it has. And you'll see here the Traxxas blows it out of the water. But that's also why this thing don't crawl real well straight out of the box. So the beauty of the Fcx24 is we can put it in high gear, and now we have more wheel speed than the Traxxas. So having that 2-speed makes a huge difference. It can crawl way better out of the box and still have some wheel speed. It's sometimes hard to transition between the two if you're trying to just bounce up something because there's not much drag brake in high gear. But in case you were wondering, they can both wheelie on the concrete. So they both have plenty wheel speed to get a little wheelie going. So when it comes to looks between these two, I definitely give Traxxas the nod. You can see all of the detail kind of on the tailgate there. And then on the FCX, we just get kind of this plain tailgate with a Chevrolet sticker in the center. You get no rear window when you take the cap off the back, so that's kind of funky looking. You got the cutouts in the bed for the shock mounts, and overall, the Traxxas just looks much better. From the side here, you can see how the window trim just doesn't really fit around the body real well on the FCX. We have no door handles or wipers, whereas on the Traxxas, we've got those extra little fine details. The windows seem to fit much better. They are cleared out of the box, and to me, overall, the looks is just really no contest between these two. The Traxxas just all comes together and looks much better than the FCX in the looks department. So the other thing you're going to want to make sure you do, and you can see my Velcro here. I have an interior for this. I'll show you guys at some point, but you're going to want to make sure you're in crawl mode, which is forward, straight to reverse. Out of the box, these are in sport or crawler mode or something, but you'll see you hold the easy set button down. So this is how it is stock. Go forward, brake, and then reverse. We don't want that. So you're going to hold this easy set button down until you see 3 red flashes. So that should be crawler mode, which is forward, straight to brake. So I forgot to mention that. So to put the FCX in crawler mode, because it's the same way out of the box, you have forward, brake, reverse. You just double tap your REV button. That light will start flashing, then hit your bind button. So we have forward, reverse. Then you're just going to double tap the reverse, and it takes you back out of the menu. All right, so I'm just going to try to make a couple climbs here and see how they both do. Curious if this will make this climb right here without the rack on the back, because before it didn't like it. Made it fine. Just removing a couple of things off of this truck makes it much more capable. Ooh, can we make that turn to the right? I don't think it's gonna make it. Oh wow, not hardly. I think it can do that. I'm just not a great driver sometimes. I can definitely feel that it is more of a start-stop on the throttle for sure. climb's really good because it is so long. It's just, see, you can hear it. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but you can hear it whining. It wants to pull, and then it just kind of lunges. That's where it needs, like, you either got to feather it like that, which is what I call just kind of on-off switch for the throttle, or it just doesn't do very well. But the turning radius right there, a little less weight probably helped us. Let's see if it can pull it off. Because when you get a ton of weight, stuff like that, your axles really start to slide more. That's why like a super heavy rig is not always the answer. See, I think if the throttle had been better there, I would have made that. It's just so hard to get a smooth slow crawl. Let's try it again. See, I'm on the throttle and I'm just not going anywhere. Maybe not. So I'm going to start off with a couple climbs here. I'm going to talk about these two, and then I'm just going to let the video play, let you guys hear kind of my commentary while I was crawling. You know, it's nothing better than kind of my thoughts and feelings on the fly, I guess. But this climb right here is really the only one I couldn't get with the Traxxas that I did get with the Fcx24. So if you watch this, I tried it once with the Traxxas, and then I just went to the FCX, and I thought if it loops out, then I'll try it again with the Traxxas. And the added weight on this truck did help it get up this. You'll see it has a little more trouble at the bottom getting bumped up that. I actually had to put it in high and one hand on the fly switch from high to low once I made this bump. So, you know, you do have that high-low, which gives you a little bit, but you can see there's no drag brake hardly in high. So I had to be very quick, bump that, and then hit the switch really fast. And then it held itself right there. So that's one thing really nice about having the 2-speed. You've got that versatility. The downside of this truck is I feel like with all of the weight that's been added to it, it still needs more weight. So this thing comes in weighing 544 grams. So it already has a lot of weight to it, but I feel like it needs more in the front, really, to make some of these crawls a little easier. I mean, it definitely could use a little in the rear as well. You'll see when I do some of the downhill stuff, because it's just such a short wheelbase that sometimes it struggles. It did make that, and I could not get that with the Traxxas. But if we add a little weight to the front of the Traxxas, it would make this climb as well. And it comes in weighing 505 grams. And I think the biggest part of that is really the body. You know, there's no weight added down low on this thing. So if we got some weight down low with the long wheelbase of this, it's definitely going to perform pretty well. Driving these back to back, I definitely felt like the servo and steering was a little better in the FCX, just because, you know, this is the Way Cool mod, so it has the upgraded steering links and servo horn, whereas a normal K5 FCX has the plastic steering link that flexes a lot and a servo saver on it. So if you were comparing those two, the steering would have probably been, you know, about the same. But this one being slightly upgraded, it felt better. There was a couple times the Traxxas got in a spot where I would turn the steering and it just didn't do anything. So I give the edge on the steering to the FCX. And at times, the shorter wheelbase of it made lines a little easier. But overall, I found myself when driving them, I really wanted to like this one more, even though the crawl on it was not good at all. The steering angle you get with these TRX4M axles is great, and the body just looks so much better, in my opinion. It just fits. The longer wheelbase fits so much better. And I think with a little bit of work, this truck is really going to perform because it is longer, but still has a really good turning radius. So, you know, it's a little bit of a toss-up. A lot of it's going to be looks. Which one do you like better? You know, I really want the red TRX4M now. After driving this one and really liking it, you know, I knew the electronics and gearing wasn't going to be great, so I have a motor on the way for this. I'm hoping will be kind of a cheap option that will make it much better. And then I'm going to throw a little weight down low, and I think I'm really going to love this truck. So I may go ahead and kind of like put some scale stuff in the bed and kind of deck it out. And that's another thing, you know, the bed doesn't have the cutouts like the FCX does for the shocks. So like it just looks better overall, in my opinion. Although it maybe didn't perform quite as good. They both need a little work. So it's like, pick which one you want to put the work into, in my opinion. And for me, I love that 2-speed in the FCX, and overall, it's a ton of fun. But, you know, if I really wanted to get down to it, I could go brushless in this and have the slow crawl and the wheel speed I need. So the body almost makes the decision for me. It's crazy. The tires on this, for stock tires, really good. I actually think they're maybe a little better than the Batrazi tires that are on the FCX, and these are just stock tires with no foams in them. I may try to keep these wheels because I like the chrome and go add a little weight to the inside and a very soft foam and see what the truck would do. But just really, when I look at this thing, it bugs me now how short it is after looking at the Traxxas. And you know, it's a great truck. I don't want to down on the FCX. I love those trucks. And the 2-speed is so much fun and so nice to have. But, you know, down the road when I start upgrading, I almost always do away with that. Like if I go brushless, I'm taking that out because it's just extra weight, you know, the extra servo, extra things to go wrong. And trying to switch from low to high sometimes gets you in trouble. So I don't know how important the 2-speed is to me anymore. So I think this is kind of going to come down to personal preference, like what you like the look of the most. This McCue mod comes with a couple extra accessories, you know, the tire rack for the back, the interior, which I pulled out of here for the testing because the Traxxas didn't have an interior in it, so I wanted to keep it as even as possible. But you do get that interior. You can't really see it because of the tinted windows, so you got to do something there to really see it. And then all of that stuff really hurts the performance of this even more. It really wouldn't start to do any of these climbs with all of that stuff on. But if you want the scale side of things, you may want that stuff. I kind of feel like if you really like the scale side of it, you're going to like the looks of the Traxxas better. So really the best thing about the FCX is just the control, the truck underneath, the slow crawl, the 2-speed. It's all bearings besides I think they put bushings in the portals now, which is, I don't know why they do that. The original truck was bearings and they've changed that. The Traxxas is all bushings. So if that's, you know, something you're looking at, you would have to switch the whole truck over to bearings versus just the portals. The aftermarket for both of these trucks is pretty solid, so you're not going to have any issues there. These wheels on the Traxxas are now just a glue-on tire. These tires aren't actually even glued. I never noticed them slipping or anything, but it's not really a wheel you're probably going to use down the road, whereas the McCue mod comes with those Steely wheels, which are really good wheels. And so that's something you can, you know, continue to use over and over down the road. The aluminum shocks on it are really good.
Oh, really?
There's, you know, you already got the high clearance links, which is something you don't get on this truck. And, you know, although I think Traxxas did a good job stretching this, giving it a little more clearance, like I didn't notice it getting hung up at all. I feel like you're going to have to put more money into the Traxxas to make it drive as good, but it could possibly be better in the long run. And it's definitely going to look better, in my opinion. And if I'm not driving something like a Slayer or a Demeanor or something like that, all out for performance, if I'm going semi-scale or scale, like I want it to look as good as possible and perform solid. And I feel like the Traxxas is the winner when I consider that. I am going to have to dump more money into it to make it crawl like the FCX, but I think in the long run, I almost would rather do that. As hard as it is for me to say, because I love the FCX and the 2-speed is fun, but in the long run, it's something I can do without. When I go brushless, I can go 3S. I've got plenty wheel speed and the slow crawl control. And here you can see where the short wheelbase really hurts it again, trying to get up this hill right here. I'm able to get it eventually. You can see how tipsy it is. And this has quite a bit of weight down low, and it's still just very, very tipsy. And the Traxxas just really walks up that one easily. So that's where I think in the long run, the Traxxas will be a little better. It's just going to take more money. So that's probably going to help make the decision for a lot of people, is how much do you want to put into it, and which one do you like the looks of the most. And I'm kind of basing this on leaving the body they come with. You know, if you're going to change the body on this truck right here, maybe extend the wheelbase with some longer links and drive shafts and stuff down the road, then this is definitely the better choice. It has electronics that you can leave in there and be happy with for a long time. We do have the oddball connector on the servos, but you know, there's a few upgraded servos out there now that come with that connector, so you don't have to worry about changing that if you don't want. The Traxxas, I feel like, you know, I'm going to play with the motor in this and try to keep the ESC. But last time I thought I was going to do that, and I just got tired of it and ditched the whole system because it just wasn't very good. So you're going to need to put a lot more money into this truck, but it just looks so good that it's almost worth it. So the other thing you got to consider is the straight axles on this truck are really good. I prefer straight axles. And a lot of people think I prefer portals because I run them all the time, but that's just because the FCX portals are strong. I haven't broke any CVDs on these things yet. And I just got burnt out on the Fcx24 worm gears and constantly breaking CVDs and dog bones and that sort of thing. I've ran 4S on the FCX axles and not broke one yet. So they're much stronger. That's why I ran those a lot. But these 4M axles are really good ring and pinion straight axles, and I would prefer that over portals normally, just because it keeps everything a little bit lower. You lose a little clearance, but usually I prefer straight axles, and the steering angle on these is really good. Now maybe you have a tight course, the shorter wheelbase may fit you a little better for a super tight course, even though the Traxxas turns a little better. If you have a lot of like straight inclines and declines, you know, like when you come into a bottom and you're going right back up, sometimes the longer body can get hung up. So the shorter wheelbase may work better for you. So there's a lot of just what works for you, you know. Obviously, the FCX is much better straight away, but I like the potential of the Traxxas, and I love the looks of it. So if I'm just going flat out the way they are, don't put any more money in these, I'm going to pick the FCX. If I had to take one of these and I could not spend another dime on it and I had to drive it every day, I would just go with the FCX because it's such a better crawling experience than the 4M. But if I took both of these and I had $100 budget to throw on top of what they are now, I'd probably pick the Traxxas because for $100 I think I can make it better. So that's just my take on these two trucks. It kind of feels wrong to pick the Traxxas as what I would probably rather build out, because it feels like I'm picking the lesser truck. I mean, I'm obviously picking the truck that's not near as good out of the box. So if you're looking for the absolute best performing, smoothest crawl out of the box, the FCX is the way to go. If you're like me and you just absolutely love this body, you can make the Traxxas better. So like, it's pretty impressive what Fair RC and FMS is giving us with the Fcx24, this mod version here. For the $200 price range, you know, you get quite a few upgrades. You could always grab a regular FCX at the 145, 155 maybe, and kind of do your own mods to it and maybe make it much better. So, you know, the Traxxas is definitely not as good, but after looking at the two, they did so well with this body. I almost just have to start there. It's crazy to think that, because we always want a better performing RTR, and then I'm kind of picking the one that just looks better. But you guys let me know what you think. Like, it kills me to really say that, but it's just how I feel, you know. I really like the FCX and everything, like I said, but when it comes down to it, I have a major problem with looking at this body now after seeing how good the Traxxas looks. So you guys let me know what you think, and I appreciate everybody watching. I've got the new Axial on the way in the trailer and everything, so we'll check that one out as well. Obviously, the Fury Tech at the $200 range, if you're just wanting performance, that thing is killer for $200, brushless, out of the box. No contest. As far as performance goes, the new Axial, the Power Wagon, I don't know why, if they were going to go and, you know, make a new body, completely new, they went with a Power Wagon. I mean, it is a 4-door, it's different, but still, how many Power Wagons do we have? You know, I understand the Fury Tech Power Wagon, they were just trying to use a body that was available, keep the price down, give us plenty of clearance because that thing's a little more performance based. So I understand that, but with Axial just creating something completely new, I have no clue why they went with that body, but we'll check it out when it gets here. You know, I like that they give us better tires and stuff, but it's kind of the same old truck underneath. So look for a real review coming to YouTube soon on that thing. And you guys let me know what you think about these two. I had fun with them both. That's all that matters. I honestly have more fun going out running these stock trucks than anything. It's just fun to go out, not expect anything out of them, and just have fun. So it's a good time to be into these small crawlers because we've got a lot of choices. So let me know which one you would pick, which one you think has the better upside, and stay tuned for a lot of stuff to come. I appreciate everybody. Peace. These tires are actually really good for stock tires. Oh, slow crawl is so terrible on this thing. It's just like, you can hear it whining. When it's time to do work, it just wants to whine. It's just like some guys I work with. There we go. See there, I was dragging that front axle just a little bit because this has the straight axles, but I do normally like straight axles when they're not ring gears, or worm gears, I'm sorry. We made it. Look at this guy. These guys are the best mousers I've ever had. Look at that. I've got 4 of these guys that are amazing. Oh, that's a bird. Good job, Simba. You're catching everything. I think he's got a bird. They catch mice like crazy, and out here you've got to have a mouser. I've got 4 of them, but today Simba has a bird. Is that a bird? We got him. I thought he lost him. All right, so I'm gonna start the K5 back up here because that's not the line I originally meant to take. Ah! Let's see if this handles it a little better. Short wheelbase got the better of it going downhill there. I hopefully got a really cool motor coming for this. It's just something different. And they had somebody, oh, same deal. Had somebody reach out to me about a motor for this, for the TRX4M, and I was like, perfect timing, because I wanted to do something about the terrible crawl of this. I'm surprised these mirrors haven't came off yet. So neither one of these are downhilling great. I think if we could take the electronics from this and the 2-speed from this and maybe stretch this out, use the body from the Traxxas, we would have the best of both worlds. It would not even come close to that with the rack on it and the cap on there. And make the turn and go down. This thing just really feels like it's geared to trail. I mean, you can just tell when you drive one. It moves so much faster, which makes it struggle when it gets to a crawling point right there, see? But look at that, 0 weight added, nothing. Just being longer really helped it on that one. Nice. Impressive. All right, so we're gonna downhill again. And I do need to get in the settings and adjust the drag brake a little on this. It's not fully holding. It does have drag brake adjustment. It made it. Barely, but it made it. Ooh, you see how that thing really rolls when it rolls. I like that they gave this a little more clearance though. You can see right there, the original TRX4M probably would have hung up there. See if we can make it down this halfway decent. Oh, saved it. So again, barely. I don't think this will have a shot at this right here. But let's see, because this is where having a high gear could possibly pay off. And click it in high. Nope, it's not gonna do that. All right, so watch how this thing will keep a good, constant, slow crawl up this. If I keep the throttle basically in the same position, it will just slowly continue to go until I let off to try to reposition. Now, I don't know if it'll make this climb or not. It's not looking like it. And now I'm just in a terrible spot. Let's see what this will do. You'll notice though, it's already start stop, and I'm not moving my finger. It just, when it needs more torque and needs to pull, it stops, and you have to give it more throttle. So it makes it harder to crawl with. Oh, it got the bump. Nice. So I'm gonna give that climb to this truck for sure, because I've actually tried that like 2 or 3 times with that truck right now. Just making sure it wasn't my driving. And this is the absolute first time I tried it with this one. Nice. I'm gonna give it one more chance. I do much prefer the throttle on this. There we go, there we go. Come on now. Just not making the bump. To get it squared up more. I think maybe, see, and I slip off right there. Right there is kind of where I want to be. I think the turning radius of the axles on the TRX4M make it a little easier to get right there. I probably should have stayed in that. There he goes. So it did make it. Just that drag brake, I gotta go change that. But this is straight out of the box. This is how it is. Let's see if they can go down this. So the entire time I'm crawling here, I just keep thinking, if this truck had some weight and better gearing, it would be so much fun. Let's go. Let's go a little higher up and then down. Nice. May have to do the same thing with this, go a little higher up. Get the rear end up a little. Oh, nope, we made it. Let's try this climb. I really don't think either one of these will make this, but you never know. Oh, yeah. Didn't like that. Let's try high. Oh, not at all. Which tells me this one's not gonna do it either, but we'll try it. Same result. They're not gonna do that. And you know, this doesn't look very tough sometimes. A lot of my stuff goes up that very easily, but you kind of realize what some of the trucks are doing when you start driving these stock trucks.